The movie opens on a rainy night. A man named Tom Cooper sits alone in his pickup truck, continuously staring at his ex-wife's house door. Troubled, he removed his wedding ring and tossed it away like a discarded memory, grabbing a hammer and a gasoline tank. As he approaches the house, starts hitting the door with the hammer, trying to break in. His ex-wife and her boyfriend were startled, approaching him, but instantly killed. After killing them, he sets the house on fire. He looks back with satisfaction, before driving off. The following morning, Rachel Flynn, a single mother, is awakened by a call from her best friend and her lawyer, who deliver the unsettling news that her husband is after her house, and they need to fight back by filing an objection soon. Later, Rachel drives her son Kyle to school in rush-hour traffic. While driving, she received a call from one of her clients, who was not happy with her work and fired her over the phone. Seeing her mom's disappointed mood, her son Kyle tries to lighten up the mood by teasing her. But nothing seems to work. Exiting the freeway, they are now behind a gray pickup truck at a red light. This truck seems exactly the same as we see the truck at the beginning of the movie. As the light changes, the truck won't budge, and as Rachel is also frustrated after being fired by a client, and with how her life is going, she angrily honks at the pickup truck. But the pickup truck doesn't move an inch, so she overtakes the truck. However, at the next light, the pickup truck pulls up to Rachel, revealing himself as no other than Tom, the man who killed her ex-wife and set the house on fire earlier in the movie. He gestures for Kyle to roll down their windows. Tom apologizes for not going at the previous light and expects the same from Rachel. But instead of playing along, she stands her ground, leading to the man becoming more enraged and threatening her with the promise of a truly bad day waiting for her. Frightened, Kyle urges her mom to leave, but the man follows and speeds in front of Rachel, slamming on brakes suddenly, nearly causing an accident before driving off. Though shaken, Rachel drops her son at school, already late. Then, she calls Andy and makes plans to meet him at a diner. Returning home, she stops at a gas station, sets the pump, and goes inside for a few items. While inside the store, she noticed Tom's truck parked behind her car. Worried, she shares her concern with the cashier and a fellow customer, revealing that the man has been following her after a heated argument. A fellow customer escorts Rachel back to her car and discloses the Tom's license plate number to her. Unexpectedly, Tom violently rams the fellow customer with his pickup truck, killing him. Shaken, Rachel speeds up, but Tom resumes chasing her. He repeatedly rams into Rachel's car. Rachel tries to find her phone to call for help, but it is nowhere to be found. To her horror, the next second Tom pulls up next to her, revealing that he has her phone. In a desperate attempt, Rachel somehow manages to escape, narrowly avoiding running over a woman. On the other side, using the info on her phone, Tom approaches Andy, who is waiting for Rachel at the diner. He pretends to be a friend of Rachel's. Weaving a web of deception, Tom assures Andy that he can get Rachel on the phone. Meanwhile, Rachel hears a ringing sound and finds a burner phone in her car, earlier planted by Tom, which is not hers. Tom hands Andy his cell phone, and Rachel on the other side starts explaining the situation. Tom abruptly takes the phone back, demanding that she owe him an apology. As suspicion grew, Andy demanded his phone back. Tom retaliated by smashing a mug across his face, slamming his head onto the table, rendering him unconscious. He puts Rachel on speaker, demanding any final words for Andy as he stabs him to death in front of everyone. Tom casually exits the diner, informing Rachel that Andy is dead. Despite her pleas and apologies, Tom remains unmoved and tells her to play a sinister game. He asks Rachel to choose someone in her contacts to die next. Refusing to comply, Rachel faces consequences as Tom transfers all her money to her husband and vows to harm her mother and burn down her house. In a desperate attempt to save her loved ones, Rachel reluctantly chooses the client who fired her earlier. As Tom hangs up, Rachel instantly calls the police, who respond to the client's home. Meanwhile, at Rachel's home, Fred watches the disturbing events from the diner on the news. Suddenly, they heard a strange noise. As they approach the noise, Fred notices the pickup truck parked outside, which is the same as shown in the news. Quickly, Fred arms himself with a knife. Tom confronts Fred, holding Mary hostage, explaining to him that over time, he began to feel a sense of significance and potency, and became invisible to humanity, leaving him only with revenge and violence as a means to cope with each passing day. As he comes closer to Fred, He repeatedly pushes Mary into Fred's knife, killing her, and he accuses Fred of killing her, as he is the one who is holding the knife. As Tom holds Fred hostage, he sends a chilling photo of himself with her brother. With Rachel on the phone again, she informs him that the police are involved now. Unmoved, Tom checks the tracker on Rachel's phone and finds out she is at Kyle's school. He threatens her, giving her only 3 minutes to pick up Kyle and flee the school. Otherwise, Fred will face a gruesome end. Then, he instructs Fred to write a letter blaming Rachel for his girlfriend's death, all while he pours gasoline on Fred. Meanwhile, disoriented, Rachel hastily demands that the principal release Kyle. She drives away with Kyle. While driving, she calls Tom, pretending to be her son Kyle. Threatening to harm her brother, Tom forces Rachel to put Kyle on speaker. Fred, under Tom's control, reads aloud the letter about Rachel being a liar and how selfish she is, blaming her for everything and also declaring his impending demise. In a sudden twist, a police officer barges in. Tom uses Fred as a shield. As the officer tells Tom to let Fred go, Tom sets him on fire and pushes him to the cop, attempting to flee. But officer is able to shoot him in the shoulder, but Tom manages to escape. The officer successfully put the fire out, saving Fred. Helpless, Rachel listens to the horrific events unfold over the phone, breaking down in tears as she halts the car. As Kyle tries to console her, the phone rings again. Fed up with the man's terror, she smashes the phone. To seek refuge, Rachel heads towards the police station. While driving, they realize Tom might be tracking them through Rachel's tablet. Discovering it hidden beneath her seat, Kyle suggests disposing of it. But Rachel devises a plan to use it to track the man as he did them before. After tracking him, they find out that Tom is in a minivan and is right in front of them. As they try to alert a nearby police officer, Tom quickly rams the officer's car, causing a multi-vehicle car accident that kills the officer on the spot. Despite their attempts to seek police assistance through the tablet, they are left to fend for themselves as the battery dies. Rachel decides to seek refuge at her mother's house, where the complex neighborhood might slow down the man's pursuit. She cleverly outmaneuvered him, temporarily losing him in the confusion. Arriving at her mother's house, Kyle triggers a silent alarm to bring the cops and hides upstairs. Meanwhile, Tom, still on the hunt, pauses to take his medication before Rachel unexpectedly rams into him with another car, flipping the van. But he manages to get out of the vehicle and attacks Rachel, telling her that he will be the worst nightmare of her life. Everywhere she goes, she will always see him. He overpowers her and pins her down, taunting her about her perceived failure to save her son. He then enters the house in search of Kyle, intent on killing him. After a thorough search, he didn't find Kyle as he was about to go back outside. Kyle inadvertently makes a noise, alerting Tom to his hiding place upstairs. Rachel also sneaks inside the house and finds Kyle before Tom. Tom finds them both too, and they engage in a brutal fight. Struggling for their life, they beat and throw each other around the room. After pinning Rachel down, Tom begins to strangle Kyle with a cord. Disoriented, Rachel retrieves a pair of scissors and finally stabs Tom in the eye, finally killing him. The police arrive, informing Rachel about Fred's survival of Tom's attack, now admitted to the hospital. With a glimmer of hope, they head towards the hospital. As they drive, a car cuts Rachel off, and with a pause, everything flashbacks in her mind, and she manages to stop herself from honking at the angry driver. Kyle says, "Good choice." And movies end as they drive in the sunset. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and take care.